Redditors who are married to Karens, how is it like? Divorce Karen. Haven't had a need to see a manager since. Thank you. But it is my favorite when family members or boyfriends swing by later to tell me they are sorry for Karen's behavior and that I'm doing a great job. Blink 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 blink. Sending out an SOS. None of them are on here. They're on shared Facebook accounts named Karen Dave Smith. This exploded more than I could imagine. Thanks for the awards and my first gold underscore. I actually know a Karen and Dave Smith. She's not a Karen though. Their daughter is a chiz though. My mom is a literal Karen, as in, it's her name. But she's like a bizarro Karen. She will constantly ask to speak with managers and supervisors and bosses. But when said managers arrive, she unloads about the employee helping her out was fantastic, hardworking, and friendly. And then she'll spend 20 minutes trying to figure out if she and the manager know someone in common. 9 times out of 10 they do. As a kid it would embarrass me. As an adult it's one of my favorite things about her. She makes people feel good about the work they do and it's really special to watch how wonderful she makes people feel. Plus she's got long gorgeous silver hair. Edit. Karen and I are crying with all the love and support. She's a wonderful lady. And to give my fair city a much needed boost, this Karen is a lifelong Philadelphian. Thank you all for making mine and my mom's day. Stay safe out there. A Karen. Not married to a Karen, but married someone with a Karen for a sister. Sil is the freaking worst. I hate more than anything going out to dinner with her, listening to her order food, and talk to the servers. Holidays are also terrible. She sends out long lists of expected gifts list. She celebrates every holiday and birthday specifically for presents even when it not appropriate. Funny thing is one time I was away from the dinner table when the bill came and Sil waited for me to return to pay the bill by actually handing it to me. She didn't give it to her sibling / my or pay her half, but expressly handed it to me to pay. BTW. Her husband is an idiot and they are a match made in heaven. Edit. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone, but yes I did pay. There are many reasons as to why, but the biggest one is that it got me out of the restaurant faster. Also, it helps me control the tip. Another time we went to a family brunch where the bill was split. Karen still waited to see what other people tipped, so she could lower the overall tip percentage for the waitress to what Sil thought was deserving. We didn't know this until afterwards, when she bragged about it later so no one even knew to stop her. And she is invited to these family meals because she has 2 children we want a relationship with, so she has that emotional blackmail card. My sister and Sil are both Karens. I will show up to restaurants 15 minutes early to warn them. I tell them if it's not done to their liking they will hear about it and they will make your shift hell. I'm just there as a warning. I used to work in restaurants and those people made life hell. I do what I can to help. Generally my drinks are better and we get a free appetizer. As soon as those 2 tornadoes walk in all hell breaks loose. Not enough ice. Table is too cold. It's too loud, etc. I also tip really big BC. I don't want to associated with the 2 tornadoes. I love overseas, so I only see them 2 weeks out of the year. So it's manageable. Edit. I live overseas, but also love it. I only put up with their attitude because they could take my nieces and nephews away from me. I pick my battles. I need my N&N to know I'm always here for them and they can talk to me about anything. I can't risk our relationship being tampered with, especially since I only see them 2 weeks a year. I have stood up to both of them plenty of times, but I'm not about to have an argument every time I see them. After living overseas I have realized how valuable family is, and I need to accept someone, family or not, for who they are and nothing more. This has more to do with being at peace with myself. Only I can change my actions and reactions. I cannot change them, but what I can do is tip a few shots before they arrive and tip big. I've been blessed, not religious, in having a great husband and stable with money. During the quarantine I started reaching out to my old friends who are not as fortunate and buying their kids iPads so they can do schoolwork, science-based activities and books. I think it's time to help those that are not as fortunate but work their ease off. And no, I absolutely do not post about it. They may send a thank you on social media, but it's not initiated by me. It is the absolute best. I love my wife. Edit. I didn't write that. Blink twice if you're being held captive. Edit. He seems to be held captive. He's under quarantine. My sister is a Karen. Everyone feels so sorry for her husband. Everything is his fault. He is treated like a slave. She only addresses him by yelling. She constantly insults him. We have no idea why he hasn't divorced her or flipped out and attacked her. We have all told her to cool it, and her response is that he's just so stupid. I could go on and on, but my sister really is a horrible person. It's 4 PM. Time for your egg flattening. Not married to one, but mom was a major Karen back when I was growing up. Mom, can we just go? Was my favorite question. Then the apologetic nod as we leave the store. I really relate to this. All throughout my childhood it happened. I remember being an embodied 11-year-old walking round apologizing for my mom's behavior in stores and restaurants. It sucked. It's supposed to be the other way around. Edit. Grammatical correction. Added throughout and embodied in punctuation. Deleted. That's extremely sad. Poor dude wasting his life with someone like that. I know a couple with a Karen. She blamed him for everything. The husband was, in our opinion, something of a saint. Once she broke a glass in the kitchen, came and sat back down at the table, and said that was your fault. We all just stared at her. She looked sheepish, and said I knew that one probably wouldn't work. They're divorced now. I guess even saintliness has its limits. Edit. And now for the you can't make this up zinger. Her first name is really and truly Karen. I knew that one probably wouldn't work. Lumpheo. My husband's ex is Karen. She's a classic narcissist. When one of our feral hens started acting aggressive towards other hens, my stepson named her Karen. Edit. Wow, the most upvotes I've ever had. No awards, though. Ha. Also, we live on Kauai, so we differentiate between feral chickens and the ones cage raised for food and or eggs. We have 5 or so roosters, 8 or so hens, 3 of which have 4, 6, and 8 chicks. We feed the adults oats and scraps and the chicks get chick starter until they can eat other stuff. We really love them, except the roosters. They're righteous bastards. I accidentally ate my dog's last week. I was supposed to wash her, but I slipped a little. Curiously though, her tasted just like a goat, sir. P.S. I think that chicken's name should have been Kahan. Honey Saint Ly, she's perfect. She makes me so happy. So happy. Why are you found love? Not the married to one, but my mom's a Karen. Literally overreacts to everything. Whenever something doesn't go her way, you guessed, gotta speak to the manager or whoever is in charge. Sometimes really embarrassing to go out in public with her because she'll just yell at the service workers for the smallest of things. Also, she has a bob cut. My mom was a Karen for a while. She literally didn't realize it until my brother and I started calling her out on it when we were early teens because we're married. She made genuine efforts to change, and a few years later was the sweetest woman you ever meet. Just saying, there's hope. Not married to one, but my aunt is. My uncle is this soft-spoken giant. He never stands up to her in any way, except once. At their daughter's wedding, she was about to interrupt the ceremony to close a window because she was chilly. Everyone sitting close could hear her whisper, "I'm going to do it, but I don't want to be an owl." My uncle, in a calm quiet tone, says quickly, "Why stop now?" Almost as if his filter just missed this one. I swear I could hear my dad snort to Rose back, trying to hold in laughter. Karen was not happy. Haha, that's great. My mom's a Karen. She is self-aware she is a Karen. My siblings and I sent her memes about it. When my stepdad divorced her last summer, we were all amazed he lasted 17 years, to be honest. None of us like going out with her, it's terrible, and my husband just straight up tells her, "No, you aren't talking to the manager when we go in a place." I'll tell you guys a story my step told us. They are farmers and own a small beef and bee farm. They have a store they go to for bee supplies. The owner called my stepdad and asked him to please be the one to pick up their stuff because his staff was tired of dealing with my mom. He is the only one who went to the store for the next 5 years. I'm just wondering, if your mom is aware of her Karen-ness, how does she react to the memes and to feedback like that she's not welcome at stores and is a jerk at restaurants? It's interesting that you guys don't seem to be afraid to point it out to her, and yet she apparently hasn't improved. Or maybe she has, like other posters have mentioned. Don't think there's any Karen's husbands on Reddit. They're probably all on Facebook. Or divorced. My mom is a Karen. She thinks the world is supposed to cater to her, serve her, and everyone else is wrong. Once we went to Carl's Jr. She ordered 4 burgers for the 4 of us. She pulls one out of the bag while the guy's getting our drinks and hides it. She complains that he forgot a burger. She pulls them out one by one and counts it in front of him. It's obviously missing because she hid it, and he's swearing up and down he put them all in the bag. I'm stunned speechless, and it happened so fast. She got a free burger and laughed as we drive off. Him just staring at her, and she opens it up to eat it on the drive home. And she ate her actual burger like the 5th one never existed. I can't even explain how she is when she's in the hospital. She treats it like a luxury stay in a hotel. Wow. My condolences. Deleted. Sounds like he married her to have some entertainment. Is he boring? D. I knew from the beginning that there would be difficulties, but I loved her and made the leap to make her my forever partner. Yes, her attitude towards certain people and things confused me at times, but by keeping an open mind and accepting her for who she was, everything has worked out well. We've been married for 10 years, we have a darling daughter, and I've even come to love my wife's kimchi fried rice. Karen, not Korean. Edit. I didn't mean this as a joke, and my dull bum literally thought the guy read it wrong. I'm very confused how I got more attention than the op, but thanks I suppose. I taught my nephews, ages 9 and 11, about Karens last year when they stayed with us for a week after school let out. After describing trays and observing them in the wild, they asked somewhere around day 2, "Is our mom a Karen?" My reply, "You words, not mine. My mom can be difficult sometimes, but isn't a Karen." When my sister and I were in our mid-20s, my mom had to start caring for our grandma. After a particularly stressful Saturday afternoon at my grandma's home, we were all carpooling back to my mom's house, and she said to my sister and I, "If I ever start acting like grandma, you better tell me." My sister and I sat there in complete silence. After a couple beats she yelled, "I do not act like my mother." It made my sister and I laugh until we cried. Mostly because, yes, she does act like her mother. Married to one. She doesn't get why people think Karens complain so much. It's annoying for her, and she'd like to talk to someone about this. My so's name is Karen, and it kind of ruins these memes, because she's very mild-mannered and nothing like them. Not married. 4 years of a toxic relationship though. I broke up with her on Monday, again. We are kinda ducked financially because of this lockdown, so we are just feeling things out for a month before we decide for sure. This cycle is on repeat. I constantly have to cut her off and speak over her because of the way she treats people. Waiters, sales assistants, gym staff, neighbors, landlords, randoms we meet in bars, etc. Note, we were both waiters at the beginning of our relationship, so she has worked in the industry, but still lacks empathy. She blames the waiter if something is out of stock, etc. My second major issue. We are both English second language teachers. She teaches kindergarten, while I teach high school. Now that we are working from home, I hear how she speaks to her students, and it's really opened up another aspect of her personality that I don't like. She will berate a student for not understanding instead of evaluating her ability to explain. Chisting on 3-year-olds in their second language doesn't fly with me. A lot of her behavior stems from a self-defense mechanism due to insecurity, but that's not an excuse. She doesn't realize how mean she is to people, including myself. I'm a people pleaser that would rather sacrifice my own comfort than someone else's. She expects me to be an a-hole to people because I'm a biggish guy with tattoos. I don't exactly look soft. It's toxic as hell. Please help. PS. The sex is so good it rivals most porn. Easily. Edit. This comment is blowing up. I appreciate all the objective advice. It's noted. I do research a lot of self-help and am aware of the codependency and enabling traits in my situation. For those making assumptions based on one comment, don't be a Karen. Her behavior stems from a self-defense mechanism due to insecurity. I can relate to that. My ex-wife could be a Karen and this was one of her triggers. What made it worse is that usually it would stem from the simplest of things, or the usual suspects that make people insecure, like obvious rejection/insult/failure. She managed like a normal person, but she would find those things in almost any situation. An example would be she missed her train home and called if I could pick her up from the next town over rather than wait for the next train a whole 20 minutes. When I got there she was waiting on the side of the road and I could not park properly, so I blocked the road and waited for her. She just stood there. When I asked what the problem was, she complained a gentleman would open the door. Once in the car she then complained that I took ages and why can't I greet her lovingly. I didn't really care by then, but not once did she even thank me. I would have just preferred she did not default berate me. After many situations like that I realized everything I was putting in the relationship as a people pleaser would come back as punishment from the Karen. Anyway, ex-wife now. I don't regret marrying her. I do regret staying with her longer than I should. That is the only advice I can give. Not married but dated a male Karen for 8 years. He was a semi-successful business owner who was twice my age, and I was young and dumb for a lack of a better word. The gist of our relationship was him trying to take over every part of my life. For instance, he would order for me at restaurants and would dissuade me if I wanted to try something new. If I had a problem with something it would be brushed off, but if he had a problem then he had to talk to a manager. Not knowing any better, I just thought he was very particular and even started copying some of his tendencies, like speaking up when I felt I wasn't getting the right service when I was out on my own. I realized who he was when we were flying back from Vegas and our luggage was heavier than when we flew in. Obviously we'd bought extra things which made up for the weight difference, so as he demanded to know an explanation from the check-in clerk as to why, if it was the same luggage, would it somehow weigh more. I innocently answered that it must have been the extra shoes and clothes. He was quiet and paid up. Later he told me to not to do that again as he knew the reason why the luggage was heavier. He was just trying to get away with not paying. At that moment a bulb went off in my head. This man had spent $1,500 on a stripper for his friend, was making an already stressful job more stressful for the clerk in order to avoid paying $60. We broke up soon after, and I checked myself on the Karen tendencies head rubbed off on me. A male Karen, what should we call him? Darren, Ken, Cody, Kyle, Carol, Kareem. Not married to one, but my mom is absolutely one. I spend most of my time with her in public apologizing to people after she's walked away. The one and only time it comes in handy is when I've bought cars and had her come in during the price negotiation phase. She's knocked off thousands purely due to how unpleasant she is and how much people want her to just get the hell out of the door. Weaponized a Karen. Nice. Help me please. Sorry, you'll need to speak to the manager. My ex-wife is a Karen, in every sense but name. It was always so embarrassing. She was incapable of treating anyone like a human for the most trivial of occurrences. It was hell for me, as a person that's pretty forgiving and don't seek out confrontation. So in a one-word description, it was hell. Lol p.s. She's very codependent and jumps from relationship to relationship these days. Not surprised. Was she like that when you were dating? My life has been a living hell. The number of times I have had to intervene to save the life of a customer service rep over nickels is insane. I've asked for divorce now just a couple weeks ago. Guess how that went over? Stay strong. Lawyer up. Bury gold in a place only you know where it is. Prepare for war. But good on you. My mom is a Karen. Not fun. I think she was part of the reason the girl I loved left, because whenever she was around my mom behaved much better and put on a nice face. We argued frequently about my relationship with my mom. Hurts a lot. Don't think I can fully let this one go. Edit 1. I apologize for not replying to very many of you. The end of the semester is upon me, and papers and such are taking up a large amount of my time. Edit 2. I love my mom very much, and she is generally a very nice person. I've spent a good while trying to put it to words accurately, but it's difficult. Everything is very minor and very subtle, but it's constant all the time. It's not what she does, it's how she does it, sort of thing. She doesn't try to hide her behavior when in public. She just tries to put her best face forward when around others like everyone else does. I don't know if she is aware of what she does when at home, because it is so minor and subtle, but I have a difficult time believing that, since it is constant and other reasons. Edit 3. My most upvoted Reddit. Wow. Edit 4. To those concerned for me in some way. Thank you, it means a lot. Only one of my friends knows the specifics of my relationship with my mom, so it's nice to receive support. To alleviate some of your worries, she doesn't control my life or actions. The pain she causes is dwarfed greatly by everything she has done for me. Without her I wouldn't have made it where I'm today, and I'm extremely thankful and lucky to give her in my life despite the pain. I do not think I will cut her out of my life. Less frequent contact helps, but she is not so great a terror that no contact ever is needed. I look forward to seeing her spoil my grandchildren, and know she will trust me to raise them, not try to take over and do it herself. Edit 5. The pain of losing the girl I loved in a way I didn't think I was able to love is the greatest pain in my life. Thank you all for your kind words and sympathy. My mum did this with my friends. Everyone always said how amazing and funny she was, but behind closed doors it was hell. I couldn't convince anyone else otherwise. Deleted. Thank you for your service. Engaged to 1. She was raised as a princess by her military raised father. However, she's super down to earth, but God forbid you work in the service industry and mess something up. She worked at IHOP during college, so it humbled her compared to her family. She just writes reviews now, good or bad, and emails corporate to complain. If something is wrong with my food she refuses me to sit there and eat it, which I hate, but I have gotten her better about it, I believe. So maybe she is just a recovering Karen at this point. So how do you like the weather on Sweden? I heard great things about Stockholm. Divorced an abusive Karen who was convicted of domestic violence. That's a misdemeanor, folks, so she got half of everything. Totally worth it. My life before was a nightmare. Escape was priceless. Note, if you are in a similar situation, especially now what with coronavirus quarantines, and need someone to talk to, PM me. Also, it's okay to reach out to any DV shelter. If you're unable to do that due to an abusive partner at home, it's okay to seek help elsewhere. Except hitmen. Avoid them. My mother is a Karen. If something minor inconveniences her, she blows it up into a huge done, constantly complains, belittles me and has a slight superiority complex. Same bruh. I read that as Koreans, and was thoroughly confused and amused by this thread. I'll see myself out. There is another comment that looks like someone has genuinely replied to that, haha. He's talking about the language barrier and his wife's kimchi fried rice. I'm not married to a Karen, but someone in my family decided to make a Karen family, and let me just say, it is freaking hell. I do not go to any social event if said Karen will be there. Keeps the peace in my family, tbh. Nor do I go alone with Karen. She is a nightmare to everyone in her path, from car guards to cashiers, even her friends. No one can be better than her or smarter than her, and she's just freaking exhausting, man. The worst part is, her kids are becoming just like her. Not the kids too. Karen. I love my beautiful wife to the moon and back, and she is amazing and strong-willed. People who are married to Karens are the guy equivalent of Karens, or they are aloof goofs unaware that their Karen is a Karen. You won't get a real answer. Coddies. My mum is a bit of a Karen, and we're pretty much no contact now, so that should tell you everything you need to know. Whenever we'd go out to eat, it's always too cold. They don't have the brand of sparkling water she likes. Thief put ice in her drink when she didn't want it. She always has to make some kind of modification to her order, etc. The list goes on. It got to the point where, if we were out shopping and she said she needed to return something, I'd just go somewhere else, because I couldn't stand watching her be rude and argue with the staff. My parents are divorced, and I live with my dad now instead. Part of the reason I barely see my mum is because I'd have to meet her in public, go for a coffee or something, and I just can't deal with the way she behaves in these places, so I don't go. I was dating one, and she acts as if we are still together. Get the net. Not married to a Karen, but my mom is a Karen whose name is actually Karen. Simply put, I haven't seen her in over a year because I couldn't take it anymore. Living with her was just an exhausting nightmare. Karen's world revolves around Karen. Nobody else's issues matter. If you tell her that you had a bad day, she'll give you 20 reasons why her day was worse. You worked 60 hours this week. Well, when she was your age, she would work 80. You're in the hospital after having major surgery. She has a pinched nerve in her arm, which is somehow worse. Your boyfriend cheated on you. She couldn't even begin to tell you about all the heartbreak she's experienced in her life. She complains left and right about anything and everything. If you're taking a week break after just getting back from college, she'll ask why you haven't gotten a job yet and claim you're lazy. If you're out to eat at a restaurant, the food is always too cold, or too burnt, or too salty. You can only ever go to the places she wants to go to because everything else is crap. My entire graduation dinner she complained about how cold the food was. She thrives in getting attention and constantly seeks it, but she has very few actual friends. Facebook is her lifeblood and she's always looking to start something on there. She's the queen of sharing uninformed, misguided, conservative propaganda, which always starts fights in her comments. Also, if a tragedy happens in the family, like the passing of my teenage cousin, she'll make a big scene on Facebook and expect condolences from anyone and everyone, and makes note of the people who don't give her what she wants. Don't even get me started on the blatant racism. I've heard everything from, watch out for black people on the subway, they'll try to take your purse, to it should be illegal for those Muslims to cover their faces. You should be able to see someone's face. One of my best friends is black, and she once told me, here's one of the good ones. They should all be like him. Minor, but the house always has to be spotless. You have a shirt on your bedroom floor? Pick up. You kids are all slobs. We have people coming over. No we don't. And even if we do, why would they be going in my bedroom? Her house is her house, and she'll let you know. Any object she has spent money on doesn't belong to you. It belongs to her. She also spends way too much money on home decor like oriental rugs, furniture, etc. But then complains about how she has no money. TL. Doctor, my mother is a Karen who is actually named Karen. Living with her is a nightmare. And before anyone asks, yes, my dad is divorced from her. Oh. Also worth mentioning, my mom doesn't need a haircut. Karen is a hairdresser. She gives the haircuts. Her clients are her main source of gossip. She spends all her time complaining to them about her life, how lazy her kids are, how much she hates her sisters, etc. As someone who had my hair cut by her for over 25 years, it's pretty exhausting to listen to. My mom is a Karen. Literally, her name is Karen. But she is like a complete angel. So selfless, so loving, so pure. I have never met anyone who has the heart she does. I swear I think she is just an angel God placed on this earth. IDK. Anyway, she is pretty upset about this Karen thing going on. She doesn't understand why people are attacking her. She thinks she's been nice to everyone, and she's amazing. But she doesn't understand why this is a thing. She would like to kindly request that we change Karen to Susan, and I agree. She doesn't deserve a meme about her. Her heart is too pure. Lol, my mom is also named Karen and she's an absolute wonderful woman. My mom hates her name to begin with, but all this Karen stuff has just solidified it. Makes me sad, because my mama is a beautiful woman with a beautiful soul, and in my opinion a beautiful name. I know the name and address of every manager working a 30-mile radius. The drawers in our kitchen are overflowing with out-of-date coupons that she still attempts to use. We spend hundreds of dollars on bob cuts and sunglasses. I don't think we'll make rent this month, but I'm sure she'll find a way to talk to our landlord's manager. Was married to a male Karen. Everything, and I mean everything, could set him off. We were at a local taproom and his iPhone automatically connected to the Wi-Fi. Keep in mind, he had full bars on our cell service. The Wi-Fi was being wonky and wasn't working. The manager, super nice guy, comes over and asks how we are doing, while he washes some glaze in the dish pit on the other side of the bar. The following conversation ensues. Keep in mind, my husband is super irritated at this made up problem because a cell service is working just fine and he can literally just turn off the Wi-Fi. Husband, your Wi-Fi is ducking trash. Manager, I'm sorry. We recently upgraded our internet and Cox is sending us a new modem. It's supposed to be here this week. Husband, if you say you have Wi-Fi, you should make sure it actually works. Manager, I know. I'm sorry. I'd be happy to restart the modem to see if that helps. Husband then ignores him and continues to talk under his breath about a made up issue. This was my life for almost 5 years. The sense of entitlement was frustrating enough in public, but more so at home. I had apologized to more servers, retail workers, neighbors, and random people in public for him in 5 years than the rest of my life outside of him. You know what, now that I'm talking about it, maybe Hes not so much a male Karen. Hes more like a piece of cheese. Obligatory not married to a Karen. However, my mother is a Karen and Lord is it not easy. I don't even know how many times I've had to correct her on the way she speaks to servers. Doesn't listen. The smallest inconvenience, she wants to talk to someone higher up. She overreacts to every inconvenience and is the type to try and bargain at a retail store. Apparently the concept of set price does not apply to her. Can't stand it. I'm glad I no longer live with my parents. I love my mother, I do, and she has great qualities, but she is the most Karen a Karen can be. I'm divorcing a Karen. Nothing was ever good enough. Everything had to be the most expensive thing and even then it wasn't good enough. It was exhausting and it sucked the pain I had for life out of me. Edit, slept on this and thought of some more telltale signs. She never said nice things about me, to me or to other people. My best friend came over for a BBQ with his wife and kids and her mother just mocked me the whole time to my friend's wife. My friend's wife confronted them about it. Even on our wedding day the part you say nice things sounded like a tentatively warm school report card. The nicest thing I remember her saying about me was I like how you make the salads. It's better than how I make it. The whole time that's the best I can think of. Was she like that when you all were dating? Best friend married a Karen. This woman is a whole different level of Karen. He makes a large 6-digit salary but has to work cycle shift away from home. She has the option to move from home so they can live as a family but refuses because she has what she calls a career. She sells scents and works a clerk job at an hour office. They have 2 kids. She can't handle them. She makes him drive home from work every day so she can work out for 30 minutes in the evening. It's a 7 hours commute. He had to buy another vehicle because he couldn't take the company vehicle back and forth. So expensive and dangerous. There's too many things. Here's some. When she's working at home he has to leave the house with the kids and can't come back until she says it's okay. Insane spending habits on unnecessary stuff. Amazon, Scentsy and other MLM products. Any negative things that happens in her life is his fault and he has to fix it immediately, no matter the cost. She texts and calls him every 10 minutes at work to complain about him being away from home and how the kids drive her crazy. She made him buy her a luxury camper, $40k, so she can visit him at work. Came one time. She puts the kids in daycare, even though it costs them more than she financially makes. Wants more kids. Wants huge renovations done, but refuses to watch the kids while he does them. He has to watch them while working. Nothing gets done quick and that gives her anxiety and stress. Makes him 10 job fairs in hopes that he'll find a job making just as much money. It won't happen, but he does it anyway to please the demands. It frustrates me because my time with him has literally become therapy sessions where he vents for hours. It's brutal and I hate that he tolerates it. The one that gets me the most is that she'd rather pretend to have a really good career than move with him so they can live a great family lifestyle. They'd save lots of money and they would be a much better parenting team. It's a 7-hour commute nah fam. When I first met my wife, she was beautiful as every single way. I remember looking at her when we walked around a lake and as she spoke to the ducks I thought I'm going to marry this beautiful Snow White. She loved all animals and they loved her right back. Her soul was pure. She looked like a queen in everything she wore, be it jeans or a sundress. She was never a princess type woman. She was always destined to be my queen. She demanded love and respect because that was what she deserved. I'm not sure when she changed, but slowly and surely, she did. She humiliates me, she belittles me, and she saddens me. I'll never be right or even acknowledged to have a valid point or opinion. She wastes money that I work hard to earn. She has strategically spaced out our pregnancies to maximize the time she doesn't have to return to paid work. She has admitted this. Why don't I leave her? Better the devil you know. Dude. No. That is BS. Do you have insurance? See a therapist. Just an objective listener. Because when you say more of this out loud it'll be clear that this isn't good for you and definitely bad for your kids. Do you want them to have chisty relationships? They will watching that. Scylla's a Karen, and her name is very close to Karen. One of her most recent masterpieces. Her daughter, my niece, had a big choir performance one night. My family, her family, and my Phil and Mill were going to meet for dinner and then go to the show. My neighbor owns a very nice Italian restaurant in town, and he arranged for us to have a big table ready when we got there. We, my family of 4, are halfway to the restaurant when my wife decides to check in with her sister with a text message. So, Karen immediately calls back and casually says she's running late. She is always late, and that it would be best if we drove to their house to pick them up. To this day I don't understand how that will help us when she's already late and we had a rather tight window to have dinner. But Karen throws a cheers fit when my wife pushes back, so we turn around, pick them up, and drive to the restaurant. We sit down, and she scans the menu, asks the waitress questions, tells her a couple times she's not ready to order and needs a few minutes. Meanwhile we are all openly reminding her that we are on a tight window. Doesn't matter. Karen will not be rushed. It should be noted that my neighbor's restaurant has a single page menu that doesn't change, and Karen has been to this restaurant many times. By the time she decides what she wants to order, we realize we now will not have time to eat. She gives all sorts of chiz to the waitress demanding to-go boxes for our meals that are just now being served. My neighbor then came to our table to figure out what was going on, and she immediately stood up to try to explain what was going on and threw the waitress under the bus. As we were leaving, I pull my neighbor and the waitress aside to tell them what really happened, profusely apologize, tell them it absolutely was not their fault at all. You'll keep dealing with that chiz. Stop enabling it. Kind of a funny story. Note before reading, I'm a male. So I ordered a pizza. This was way before the COVID days. They said 30 minutes. An hour goes by. No pizza. Due to a fault on their end and their attitude I went off on them. My 10 years old son heard me, and after I hung up, he says, "Dad, why do you have to be such a Karen?" Edit fixed typo. Not an answer, but this is the best question I have ever read. I'll be watching. I'm afraid they will answer, cause Karen will be watching too. They're the guys with couples profiles on FB. Good luck getting any information from them in full view of what their wives can see. Lol. My friend has his own Facebook account. His wife has his porn. He doesn't even want it anymore, but she won't let him delete it. Karens. I hope someone just writes kill me. I mean, I'm an unmarried woman, but kill me. I'm not married to a Karen. I named the human that came out of me in 2007 Karen. She's 12 and hates her name. She wants to change it. Ouch. I've never met any Karen who wasn't already an adult, come to think of it. She helps me try to steal the secret formula. We never get it, but it's good to try. My brother is married to a Karen. He's getting pussy whipped, henpecked, every day, and no one likes her in the family. She'll complain to the manager every time they go shopping. My nephews and nieces would reply okay, Karen repeatedly at her. You know what they say when you leave the room? What? Poor dastard. IDK. Let me ask my wife. It's been an hour. Probably he won't reach us anytime soon. RIP mate. Imagine a Karen, but 6 feet tall, with gorilla strength, way too much body hair, and an always angry Mediterranean accent. That's my dad. I broke up with my ex Karen after she went to buy a coffee machine for $700 and then proceeded to be so horrible to the cashier. For some reason she demanded 20% off that he had to get his manager And then after about 40 minutes of pure Karenness, the manager used his card to give her the 20%. After she came home and told me that I drove back to the store to apologize. And in her mind, that day is still filed under I will get what I demand if I just demand it hard enough. Been with a Karen for nearly 5 years. She's the most caring, honest and beautiful person who I've had the fortune to meet. She's a nurse who is devoted to her job and who, on many occasions, has been known by patients and staff alike for her compassion and fierce devotion to the care and well-being of people in her ward. She has stuck by my side through things that would have maybe broken the strongest of couples. I owe her my life. Also, contrary to the meme, she doesn't complain, and we've only ever had one argument, which was about food. 10/10. Best Karen on Tinder 2015. I know a guy hot married to a Karen named Karen. Every part of their family's life is perfectly scheduled. Right from the homework to the dinners. I think the bathroom schedule has been out of whack recently. I think it's a win-win situation for him, since his life is perfectly organized with minimal effort on his part, and when someone crosses a line and annoys him, his wife will destroy them with her passive-aggressive comments, and he still doesn't have to raise a finger. Bathroom schedule? Mom, my bowel movements do not abide by your heinous time frames. Not married to one, but my wife's aunt married a Karen. She is a horrible person. Just off the top of my head, at her mother-in-law's funeral she literally stole all the trays of catered food out of the oven before anybody ate and left. Another time, whenever she got so drunk she just sat on the sofa and beat. She didn't get up, just sat there. We don't talk to Karen or my wife's aunt anymore. Damn, she may be a Karen, but what you are describing, the thievery and drunkenness, is beyond Karen. Before she comes, send help, my address is 78. RIP bro. I was married to a Karen. I'm sure the question on everyone's mind is, was she like that at home? The answer is abso-ducking-lutely. She was the kind of Karen who had to be absolutely perfect or I'm complaining. Restaurants, stores, anything. At home was worse. I couldn't do anything right. Any ambitions or dreams I had, I wasn't good enough to do. So why try? Ugh. So glad I divorced her. Bonus, the lawyer she hired was an idiot and wrote the paperwork up wrong, so she won't get anything from my retirement. Or the lawyer was giving you a break after having to deal with her. You never know, they might have had a soul. My dad married one. She's an absolute nightmare. Apparently at work once she went outside to shout at a gardener who was making too much noise trimming a hedge. When she came back inside she found all her colleagues laughing and saying that poor guy got Karened. She was really shocked that her name got turned into a verb, but her colleagues were spot on. They are probably dead inside, just an empty shell of a human shuffling around, hoping for the day that death's sweet embrace comes for them. Wait until Karen asks to see the Reaper's manager. My brother was married to a Karen. She lived to berate people and rarely went anywhere without a flask of vodka to fuel her fire. She despised kids and wasn't quiet about it. In the first year of marriage she decided her husband had to earn sex. So if she didn't like the way he painted the shed, or groomed the dog, or poured his cornflakes, and she never did, there was no reward. After 10 years he divorced her, moved to another state, and married a kind-hearted, generous, empathetic lady. Karen still can't understand why he dumped her perfect A. My mom is a Karen. Legit her name too. Could be the original Karen it is all based on. Don't think she knows the meme of her own name. Essentially she is such a Karen she got her name changed to Karen. And there is a lot of food sent back at restaurants. My mom is a Karen. She literally cannot help herself but to tell other her opinion. She genuinely sees it as doing everyone a favor. It destroys her relationships with my siblings. None of my other siblings will talk to her. A few years ago we went out to eat. The restaurant served bread and butter before the meal. The butter was whipped. My mom, the former dairy farmer's daughter, insisted they bring her real butter. The waitress went back to the kitchen and came back and told her what she had was butter. How dare she? My mom, who apparently is infallible in her ability to detect butter, started acting like a complete a-hole to the waitress about it. She knows what real butter tastes like. I go to this restaurant often, and my kids are there, so my first instinct was to apologize to the waitress. That was a bad idea. As soon as I did, my mom went into a rage about respecting your elders, and walked out of the restaurant. To this day she still won't admit she was unkind to the waitress. You refuse to enable her. Good for you. My sister is a Karen. She is absolutely arrogant when she speaks with others. Always talking rude and arrogantly to me in front of her husband, but if I respond back, she just calls mom and throws an anger fit to blackmail her emotionally that I insulted her in front of her husband. She forced me and her husband to go to a supermarket to buy a bag of chips for children right an hour before the lockdown, but when I said no, she went full Karen on the call. She stoops to disgusting low levels in arguments with me, but believes she is very honest, pious, and kind. Hahaha. She is absolutely manipulative. She gets angry at me in front of everyone but straight out denies her behavior whenever I complain about it with my mother or anyone. Thank God for posting this. I'm stuck with her these days in the lockdown and can't wait to get further this hellhole which she haunts. My mother is her enabler. Honestly, I would just sit her down and call her out on it as many times as I can. If I have to cut ties, I have to cut ties. Awful people like that will have a very negative effect on your mental health, and it would be better to just cut them from your life, no matter the relationship. My sister is half Karen. She's actually a really nice person, but I hate going out to eat with her. Inevitably, something is always wrong with her food, and she sends it back. She's nice about it, but super nitpicky. Every damn time. And even if her food is okay, if someone at the table makes the smallest complaint, she'll suggest to tell the server. They'll say nah, no big deal. Then she will flag down the server and complain for them. My mum is like halfway to being a Karen. By that I mean she will only do it in grocery stores. It got to the point that when I was 12, as we stood in line, while she's being an obnoxious twat, I say very clearly and loud enough for most people in our line and the cashier to hear, "If you do not stop, I will not come out with you in future. Your behavior is immature at best. Grow up." She's not pulled that chiz around me since. Fingers crossed she doesn't, but IDK. If I did this as a kid, my /r/ray said narcissist's mom would have taken me out to the car and beat me for, then would go on to bring it up in front of guests for the next 15 years. I'm glad it was a wake-up call for your mom. Karens seem to be pretty much an American phenomenon. Most Brits don't like complaining. And you can't speak to a manager and get someone fired as we have proper employment laws here. Have you worked in retail here? Because I did for 6 years in multiple locations in the UK, and I promise you we absolutely do get Karens here. You won't get fired though, they'll just waste your time. This is going to get buried, but it's a juicy one. I was married to Karen, and it was absolutely embarrassing, and cost me many good friendships. I was in the military, and she would continually cause drama with the other wives, wear my rank on her sleeve, and was the first person to judge. She always had the attitude that she was better than everyone, still does from what I've heard, and flip out on servers, and I would have to straight up have to sneak tip them. Well, after a few different duty stations and a lot of burnt friendships, I was getting tired of it, and I would look forward to going on my deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. On my last one, she decides to cheat on me with my best friend. Gotta love it, and I'm immediately told about it. I'm not sure if it was because I was well liked or she was well hated. Anyway, this was my thank God moment. I can be the first one in my family to get a divorce and not get judged too hard for it and end 10 years of absolute misery. So, fast forward to today, my ex-best friend. Thanks for the solid dude, lol, and my ex-wife ended up getting married. But if there is one thing you don't do, it's cheat on your deployed husband. This is very poorly looked upon everyone in the military, and you'll be excommunicated by the community, and the other is start a marriage based on cheating. So, from what I heard, not that I really give a chiz, is that she is divorcing him for cheating on him, and she is no longer allowed to be on the post for shacking up with another married dude while his wife was deployed. The circle of shame continues. Also, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and there were a lot more repercussions for them because of the initial instance that happened while I was deployed. My gal is Karen when it comes to stores, and if her food isn't correct, but she's not too bad. I however am a complete opposite. I'm laid back. I don't complain much unless it's something huge, which is rare. Not a Karen, but I feel like having your food come out correctly is a reasonable expectation. If you really don't care, it's fine, but people shouldn't be ashamed to politely tell their server if their order is wrong. Was married to one. Think they are a monster in public? Absolutely terrible at home. Bullies, nasty, cannot lose an argument. Physically and mentally abusive. Worst thing she would do is if she had the idea I might walk out, she would physically corner me, ensure she was 1 inch from me, and scream in my face for sometimes over an hour, trying to egg me into touching her so she could call the cops on me for assault. Worst thing, I got screamed at for 2 weeks solid when she could. She rear-ended someone in her Gia tracker. Poor women's Karen mobile. Shattered her grill was all. I went to a few pick and pulls to see if I could find a new grill. No Gia tracker, but found Chevy tracker grill. I bought it. I had to have permission to spend a dime, so I told her a tracker grill. I got home about same time as she did from work. I was her live-in nanny for her kids and saw it on the counter before I could debadge it and put it on her tracker with the Gia logo. 2 weeks of hell. Told her I'd take it back and get a Gia tracker one. I did. Next day take it back. I went and found the badge I saw the other day that wasn't sun faded like hers. Stuck it on the Chevy tracker grill, installed it. She had no clue, but she went on 4 days. How stupid I was to buy a Chevy grill. Obviously not the same vehicle. How she had to wait a whole extra day to be able to drive it to work. That she had to answer why she was driving my Chizbox. Lol. That she had to lie about it for a second day being in the shop. That my wax wasn't good so it didn't look obvious that the grill was replaced. That I should have used the original badge so it wasn't obvious. I put original Chiz badge back on. Then she bitched about how chizzy the old logo was. That I should have cleaned it sooner or changed it sooner, but can't change it now. To draw eyes to the too clean grill. Was my fault I couldn't buy a more worn grill. That the grill wasn't centered. It was centered. Her old wasn't. That it's my fault she drove the car. She refused to let her kids ride in the old crappy car when I shuttled them. That it's my fault we couldn't afford a second car. First 3 years of marriage refused to let me work. My fault we lived where we were. My fault she rear-ended the guy. My fault her brake switches. My fault that she drove the faster route I found to her work. My fault that she still worked there. My fault I didn't force her to move to San Diego. My fault I didn't make her a new child. My fault we didn't have sex often. My fault I didn't arouse her. My fault that we married too soon. My fault that her kids were only A students, not A+. My fault that I had to sleep on the couch. My fault that all the plates she threw at me broke. My fault. When she couldn't win a fight, the past would win it for her. If that wouldn't win, she would get straight abusive until I would submit. After I left her, which was the second largest war and longer story, found out that she ducked every male employee she worked with on business trips. And yes, Waraxa Drive, Jekyll and Mr. Hyde scenario, all the way up to wedding. She was outwardly a great person. Wedding changed her into Karensaurus Rex. I have Karens for parents. Ducking awful. I got 150 in gift vouchers from charities when I was diagnosed with cancer. So I went out and brought some decent headphones. One day they just snapped. My sister saw. All I did was bend them slightly to place on my head and they snapped. My dad was angry and the next day he grabbed my wheelchair and took me back to the shops. He made me take off my chemo cap and made me sit in my wheelchair. He wheeled me in the shop. He ended up getting into a screaming match, ordering a manager and a supervisor, and said look at her. At some point my sisters left the shop and just cringed outside. My dad won't let me leave or wheel myself out. The whole time I was beet red and had my head in my hands. When they wouldn't help him, he threw the broken headphones into the metal trash can for receipts and it rattled. He stormed out calling them nuts. I looked up as I was being wheeled out and mouthed him so sorry. If there are any 30 to 40-year-old ladies who worked at Argus in the UK and you had a man come in with a child with cancer who was shouting about 100 headphones, I'm so sorry. Don't believe any replies. All Karens will have joint Reddit accounts with their husband. Karens marry Kevins. The male equivalent. They drive trucks, even though they work in offices, think the checkout ladies are flirting with them, and start fights over parking spaces. They are the assholes that rush to overtake you and slow down. They flirt with the waitress while their wives are in the bathroom, but only tip 10%. They have concealed carry permits, but let everyone know they conceal carry by showing off their guns every chance they get, which is trigger discipline. They think calling black people urban youth means they are not racist, and wear shirts that threaten their daughters' dates unironically. They let the police know that they pay their wages every chance they get. Sometimes they hit their wives, and they certainly hit their kids. It's easier than talking to them, and most likely have Blue Lives Matter stickers, along with their gun club, plastered all over the back of their truck cab window. I won't mention who, but the Karen's husband that I know tips extra whenever we go to a restaurant and calls it the Karen tax. I happily pay alimony now, and I never have to hear her again. Where are the mods? Who wrote this post? This is racist. You have been reported, and I'll be telling all of my friends not to use this subreddit. One of my cousins is. He lives at the office day and night to hide from her, and we suspect has not faithful from time to time. She was a very slow hatching Karen, so he was basically trapped on a ship with a xenomorph and didn't know it. Once they tied the knot and baby one arrived, she took her ultimate Karen form. I won't go out to eat with them, because she will complain about everything the whole time. Facebook is her kingdom, and the other Karens reinforce these chisty behaviors by liking all of her posts. Her favorite activity is complaining about how hard it is being a full-time mom, even though her kids are in school and she has a housekeeper. Posting negative reviews of stores on Facebook is a very close second. I had to go out for a cigarette and abandon her to my son Nelson. It'll be back one day. Own time my sister and I went to Applebee's, or as we like to call it, Crapplebee's. But a Karen was sitting next to us yelling at this 16-year server BC her Crapplebee's steak dinner wasn't to her liking. The young lady started to cry. So as we finished and left, my sister said maybe we'd all be a little happier if we didn't expect a 5-star steak dinner from a ducking Applebee's, and the Karen was rather defeated and sank in her chair. The young server said thank you so much when we left, lol. The Karen was eating alone too, didn't have to wonder why. Did everyone clap? Early in our marriage I started seeing some Karen tendencies in my wife. It started because companies were legitimately jerking us around on things we needed, and she was trying to be more active. Initially she had it compartmentalized. She'd turn it on when she needed it, and turn it off once things were getting resolved. But she started losing her ability to keep it segmented, and this entitlement meant it started bleeding into other interactions. It never got too bad, but I didn't like the direction it was headed. I finally said something one night after she'd gone into a store to return something and came back out to the car telling about how she gave the employee a talking to about how terrible the return policy was. So I just asked her, an hourly employee with no say in the matter, upheld the company policy as she was trained to do, and you thought it was appropriate to give her a talking to for that? How do you think that made her feel? What would you have done differently if you had her job? Was it worth ruining someone's day over this? Do you feel better that you made her feel bad, or worse? Is that how you want people to remember you? All the while I was circling back to the store, I parked the car and said something to the effect of, I think you owe that woman an apology, and I think if you take a minute to think about it, you'll do the right thing. She argued with me for a few minutes because she felt like I was attacking her, but to her credit, she walked herself back in that store and stood in line for 10 minutes to apologize. That was a turning point for her, I think. Since then, even when people have legitimately screwed up, she's been much more patient, understanding, and polite. I'm grateful she was open to my critique, because I have other Karens in my extended family, and I don't know if I could be with someone like that. Talk about beating a dead horse. D just wanna call women nunts, but thinks they'll be downvoted for asking Redditors who are married to nunts, how is it like? So you wrap it up in a thinly veiled euphemism. My husband is not a male version of Karen. My husband is not a male version of Karen. My husband is not a male version of Karen. My husband is not a male version of Karen. My husband is not a male version of Karen. My husband is not a male version of Karen. I think this person's husband is a male version of Karen. How is it like? My dad is dating a Karen, and, though I'm not a fan, he absolutely loves her. So I guess he'd say good. I was born a Karen, but changed my name when I was 12. I asked my husband and he said, 1. I've never asked to speak to a manager. 2. I don't stand up for myself. 3. I'm very organized. We went to Puto Vallarta and he left his wallet on the table at home. I had it covered with extra money pulled out of the bank, extra credit card and traveler's checks. 4. I'm shy with a left hook sense of humor. 5. I tell everyone I love them every day. Oh my, you watched until the end? That's fucking awesome, dude. Thanks for watching.